Okay, so if you're feeling behind with this kind of AI trend, if we can even call it a trend anymore, then you're certainly not alone. Because for the past month, I felt super behind with AI. And today I heard on the radio that BBC were laying off 10% of its workforce, in part, predominantly, I imagine, due to these kind of AI tools that are increasing supposedly everybody's productivity. And this is coming from somebody that uses AI every day, right? So I'm using it to help me with my history work as a final year student at King's, and I'm also using it in my business, right? I have an agency that helps entrepreneurs get more sales of their product and service through YouTube. So I'm kind of trying to stay on top of it as much as I can, but I've kind of figured out there's 3 reasons why I feel incredibly behind, and maybe you do too. So in this video, I want to share with you what those 3 reasons are, and I also want to give you a little kind of action step, I guess, at the end of the video of a way to kind of try and stay on top of all of this AI stuff, so that hopefully you don't get your your job replaced or your business replaced, or we don't just melt away into the oblivion thanks to Claude. But what are these 3 reasons? Well, reason number 1, and this is if your Instagram is anything like me, right? I've for some reason stumbled on to the Claude Code part of Instagram. So every single reel I see is of like a 20-something-year-old dude in San Francisco, just showing me like these really long Claude Code workflows and saying, oh, I've just spent like 12 hours vibe coding in Claude, man. It's amazing. And this is literally every single thing I'm seeing on my socials at the minute. But the problem with this is that nobody's actually sharing what they built. So you kind of just get this sense of FOMO that you should be spending your time on something. But if none of these influencers are showing you anything of value, of anything that they've actually produced, then I think we've just got to say this is just like marketing fluff. It doesn't achieve anything. It's the same as like Tim Ferriss has this great quote of like, are you being busy or are you actually being productive? And I think a lot of what these people are doing is just being busy, and to be honest. And that brings us on to the second reason, like why I think you might be feeling behind. And the problem with AI at the minute is that like 95% of the AI stuff that you're going to see online is people just showing off new tools, right? Like new apps, new websites, whatever, things that you can use. And whilst it might be kind of fun and interesting to look on one of these tools and be like, oh, I can replace myself in my favorite movie scene. You've got to ask yourself, does that actually help you? Does that actually improve your life in any sort of meaningful way? Probably not, right? Like, and the issue with all of that is I know of short form creators, and this is probably the same with people on YouTube too, getting paid $10,000, $20,000, $30,000, $50,000 to promote one of these AI apps, one of these AI tools to their audience. And it's crazy. I've never seen numbers that high before in the 3 years that I've kind of been in this online creator space. So the problem with this is that the people telling you should be using these AI tools aren't making money themselves. Not all of them, but most of them aren't making money themselves with these apps and tools. They're making money from monetizing the audience that they built on AI, whether that's through sponsorships, whether that's getting paid through AdSense, affiliates, partnership, like direct partnerships with these brands. And that's the problem. And it kind of links with the first point, right? If people aren't actually creating any value with this AI, and they're just using it as marketing fluff, then of course you're going to feel behind, because they're not making money with this AI stuff either. So unless you want to be an AI content creator who's just promoting all the latest tools, then I wouldn't really worry about any of that. So how do you actually use AI? And how am I using it in my life? Well, this brings us on to point 3, why you might feel behind. Because I feel like 95% of people don't actually understand why AI is so useful, because it is in many cases. But you've got to understand this. The way I think of AI is it's a little bit like steroids. Bear with me, I'm not condoning steroids here, but let me explain. So if you want to get a more aesthetic physique, right, and you have the bright idea, oh, I'm going to start using steroids, but you've never been to the gym before, you don't know how to eat clean, and then you start injecting this thing into your body expecting to, get a six-pack and look like Arnold Schwarzenegger overnight. It's just not going to happen, right? However, if you have the habit of going to the gym, you've been doing that for like 3-4 years, whatever, and you're eating clean, and then you start using steroids, all of a sudden, like overnight, and I've seen it with people I'm around, I've not used steroids myself, but all of a sudden, your physique is going to completely transform. And AI works exactly the same. AI is like steroids for knowledge work. So when you already have an existing skill, this is kind of like the habit, but if you have an existing like task or a skill that you do that makes you money or improves your life. So for me, it might be, coming up with like ideas for YouTube videos for my clients. Then you can use AI as a productivity tool in the same way you would use anything like a notebook or any sort of software to help you speed up that process. So the way I think about it here is that AI is less so something to create from scratch, and it's more so to help save you time and get you better results with the things that you already do. And this kind of brings us on to what I'm doing to try and keep up with AI and not feel so behind, right? Because I think if most people do this, then you're going to stay on top of the trends, and hopefully you won't be in danger of getting replaced by this kind of AI vortex, which is a bit scary. But what am I doing? Well, because AI is a productivity tool, we can fall into this kind of trap that I first read about in the 4-Hour Workweek. Goated book, by the way, by Tim Ferriss. And essentially, in that book, he talks about the difference between being busy and just being productive. And one of the issues is, if you have an office job or if you do any sort of like knowledge work sat down with a laptop, it's so easy to look back at the end of the day and be like, oh, I've not actually done anything useful. I've not actually produced anything. I felt like I've been sat down at my computer all day, but I've got nothing to show for it. And that is because you've been busy, as Tim would call it, and not productive. So how does this relate to AI? Well, what I like to ask myself at the end of the day is, okay, what do I actually produce today? Whether that's like some thumbnails, whether that's part of a script, whether that's some video ideas, whether that's a new process like in my AI system, I've got to look back at the end of the day and say, okay, I produced something. And at that way, you're not just like blindly scrolling through social media, getting swept in by this AI marketing trap. And you're also, as you might be guilty of, you're not watching too many videos saying you're learning or you're like procrastinating, because all of these kind of things are just hidden forms of busy work. And the way I do this and the way I keep it quite manageable is next to my laptop, I'm keeping my notebook, and I'll just write the date at the top, and then throughout the day or at the end of the day, whatever, it doesn't really matter, I'll just log down anything I've learned and anything I've done throughout that day, and then I can look back and be like, okay, well, I've actually had a productive day and not just a busy day. So hopefully that helps some of you guys feel less behind with the AI stuff. I mean, look, it's changing every single day, and I certainly think if you're not using it already, then definitely get on that. Definitely give Claude a go. But for the most part, like, at least right now, I think it's going to change throughout this year. A lot of what you see is just marketing hype, designed to try and push people to a product or service that makes that makes the creator money, because they're not monetizing through the AI stuff itself. And that's coming from somebody that actually helps people sell products or services online. So the kind of big overarching lesson is, don't get distracted and don't really listen to anybody who doesn't produce anything of value and doesn't show you how to solve problems with AI, and instead is just like constantly pushing these new tools and features, because chances are they're not monetizing through the chances are they're monetizing through AI that's pushing them to something completely different, and they're not actually using AI to make their own money or improve their life or whatever. So hopefully that helps some of you guys.